Hello again, it's Dan Olds, and we are here with another OrionX download. With me, as always, is my co-host Shahin Khan. Hey, Shahin, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm actually physically there with you today for a
We
change.
are physically in the same
beautiful
place.
Beaverton, Oregon.
Beautiful downtown Beaverton, the jewel of the Pacific Northwest, as they call it.
So I hear, yes.
Interesting today, our topic, we're going to be talking about data.
Data.
Why it's important, how to protect it.
Definitely data is now a real asset. Monetization of data is
Maybe
real.
the most important asset.
Increasingly the most important asset.
Yes.
And that really was the impetus to the paper you wrote, was
Yeah.
that when there's an outage, it's not just that you're out, you're also not collecting data.
That's the thing, is what happens if you either lose some data, or let's say that your organization lost a day's worth of data. What would happen then? Could you bill customers? Probably not.
Right. So if you make the analogy with oil, it means you're not excavating for a whole day. You're not
Yeah.
It's
You're not
coming out of the
building, you're
ground.
not driving, you're not doing
You're
anything.
not collecting. Yeah.
And plus all the employees that are just sitting around.
Now that part is part of the downtime.
Yes.
When you have a downtime, people can't work, they can't be productive. So that part is the traditional outage analysis. The part that was new that your paper pointed to was the fact that you're actually not collecting data.
Yes.
That means your main data asset is not accumulating like it should be, so that's a big loss
That's a big
itself
problem.
that needs to be measured and have a framework so we know
And that's
how
what
much it costs.
that's what we tried to do, is we tried to put some I tried to put some ways to compute the value.
You put
of
a
your
framework
data
around it. Yeah.
with the type of data, the size of the data, the convertibility of the data. Some
Right.
data is more valuable than other data, in that some data, like for instance, customer invoices, that's convertible to cash right
Right.
away as long as you can get to it.
Right.
Other data, like historical data, isn't.
Right.
Also, reproducibility. Can you reproduce that data? How timely is the data? All of that goes
That's
into
true.
figuring out.
Yeah, traditionally if data is stale and old, the value may drop.
Yeah.
It probably does drop until something points to it, and then its value shoots up again, and then it comes back down.
Yeah.
But in the process of that article and the paper, the company that kept coming up was LINBIT.
Yes.
And LINBIT is the commercial company that delivers solutions based on DRBD and other added software.
Yes. And so we thought that since we're both in Beaverton, why don't we go to LINBIT's, at least their other headquarters, which is in Beaverton, and talk with them, go straight to the horse's mouth. Well, let's introduce our guest. We're with Brian Hellman at the LINBIT's U.S. headquarters. He is the Chief Operating Officer and also Head of Operations for the United States.
For LINBIT, that's
For
right.
LINBIT. Say hi, Brian.
Hey Dan. Hey Shane.
Hey.
How you doing?
Thanks for joining us, Brian.
Or letting us join you, as it is.
I'm doing
That's
pretty
true.
well.
That is actually what's happening.
Yes, we are in their palatial conference room right now.
I
Yes,
love
we
this
are.
conference room.
It's not bad. It's not bad at all.
Wraparound windows.
Plus a Wheel of Fortune there that, not sure what that does, but I know that Movie and Pizza Day's on there.
Well, anytime anybody gets a sale, that gets spun,
Ah, okay.
That's
and then
pretty
we go do stuff depending upon what people land on.
cool. Right.
Much cheaper than actually paying them commissions.
Right.
So Brian, tell us a little about LINBIT.
So LINBIT was originally founded in 2001. We started out with developing DRBD, which is a block level replication software for Linux.
Now, what does that really mean?
So the module itself is in the Linux kernel. It replicates data in real time between multiple points. So as the software has progressed, it's now capable of mirroring data locally and remote simultaneously.
Okay, okay, that's very useful.
But because it's part of the Linux kernel, it means that applications can use it without really having to do anything because it's already there. You don't have to install it really, right?
Yeah, it actually sits. So as long as you have a kernel that's newer than 2.6.33, which I believe is anything RHEL 6 and above, the kernel is already included with it. It sits below the application layer, so it's application agnostic. Anything.
So if it's already a part of it, what do we need you for?
So we deal with.
Oh, is that a jerky question?
That's a very nice question.
No, it's a question we get asked all the time, and the reality is that we develop the software. We sell service and support around the software. Depending upon what you're doing with the software, it's not something that's very trivial, so it can be a little bit difficult to set up and get right. High availability is, if done wrong, can actually equate to more downtime than it would be if you didn't do it right. So that's really what we focus on, is we're the specialists that deal with implementing and supporting the solution.
So you need the fundamental tool that replicates data at the block level, not the file level, at the block level.
Yeah.
But if you want to use that capability to make your applications be highly available, or have disaster recovery, or do automatic storage replication, that stuff starts being complicated.
Getting specialized.
Well, you need to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And if you do know what you're doing, then great, but it is usually difficult.
Okay.
And in
Probably
HA,
something you want some support for.
you probably do, and it's advisable that you do, because in those situations, cockpit errors are one of the top reasons why you do get outages. And as Brian was saying, if you don't know what you're doing, you're better off not doing it at all. So just because it's in there doesn't mean you click a button and it's all good. You have to really set it up.
And so in a way, you're kind of like how Red Hat is to Linux, you are to Linux high availability?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Good. I nailed that one.
Right on the head.
We can stop now.
I can stop now. It'll leave them wanting more. That's great. So tell us more about LINBIT. What else do you guys do?
So outside of doing the local replication, we do the long distance replication, as I'd mentioned. Additionally,
How long a distance?
Any distance.
Any distance, as long as
So-
you're attached to a network.
Yes. So
Okay.
we actually replicate between our office here in Beaverton, Oregon, all the way over to Vienna, Austria. And we do so without impacting the application performance whatsoever.
Well, that was the next question. Is what kind of overhead are we looking at?
For the Linux kernel module itself, I believe is around 200 kilobytes or so. So it's very small. Just as a proof of concept, we've set this thing up on Raspberry Pis. We built a cluster.
really?
We built a cluster of those to replicate between.
That's cool.
And then we've gone all the way up to the supercomputing. We've worked with some of the biggest names in the industries, like storage vendors, network vendors. Mellanox is one of our partners.
Okay.
We're doing a lot of work in the RDMA field right now.
All right.
So is your product under the covers with a lot of these companies, vendors?
There are numerous appliances that ship a high availability component, and we're that component.
And a couple
Okay.
of cloud providers, I understand.
Yeah, when you're dealing with cloud, you deal with scale, and the cost of a SAN or NAS doesn't really scale very well when you're talking tens of thousands of nodes, especially when you're trying to deploy these in an automated fashion. So when you deal with software, that's much easier. So we'll be used in these cloud providers, and they'll just roll us out like they do anything else across
So
tens
I
of
tell you,
thousands of nodes.
Whenever I see high availability or resilience or disaster recovery or anything that implies high levels of availability, and I don't see another vendor's name in there, my assumption is that it's LINBIT underneath.
Really?
I think so.
It's pretty
Now,
pervasive.
Brian would know better, but I don't know to what extent he
think
can
he'll
share.
tell us,
So,
but-
yeah.
If it's running Linux, chances are that it's our
a
software.
no-brainer.
If it's a high
Yeah.
availability
First of
offering.
all of them are running Linux.
Yeah.
It's already in the kernel.
True.
It does what it is you need to do. And if you're running a cloud, you're not going to go get it from a proprietary vendor who's going to charge you millions of dollars for it.
Nope.
So suddenly going with LINBIT becomes a relatively no-brainer option. And then the article you wrote, and now you look at their website is like almost 1.6 million downloads for HA software. We're not
pretty
talking
big
about
deal.
personal productivity.
We're not
or
talking
an
about
app on your phone. You're talking about a data center grade industrial strength software. 1.6 billion. You have to wonder who doesn't have it.
That's an awful lot. Yeah. You said million, right?
Million.
Okay, I thought you
Did I
said
say-
billion for a second.
Billion?
Yeah, but I guess
I
not.
don't think we have that many data centers.
I don't think so either.
So Brian, I look at your website and it says LINBIT HA LINBIT DR for disaster recovery, LINBIT SDS for software-defined storage. Would you take us a little bit through how you look at the market and what your product
various
packaging
products
looks like?
do.
Yeah.
So the LINBIT HA is high availability. That's what our core competency is. That's what we've been doing since 2001. The disaster recovery aspect of it came around 2008. We'd had a customer, I believe it was the National Weather Society in Europe. They wanted to transfer large chunks of data across their ISDN line, but of course this impeded their application performance because ISDN is super slow. So we came up with this product, LINBIT DR, that is able to buffer the writes without impacting performance locally and then transfer them over the wire as bandwidth is available.
Okay.
So that's how we do the long distance stuff. So LINBIT SDS, as we're going toward the cloud infrastructure and everything's out there and we're talking scalability, DRBD has been evolving as well. So prior to last year, we were doing one-to-one replication, or if you got fancy with it, you could do stacked resources and get up to 4 nodes of replication. Now we can do 1-31 in a spoke-like fashion, so one-to-many replications of a single resource. So you can actually, in a DRBD pool, as we call it now, you can actually have thousands of nodes. Now, but you can only have the data set mirrored up to 31 times, which we've never seen it.
That's not a very big limitation. I mean, 31 copies of your data is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, the most we've seen is 4.
Okay.
So 4 copies of the data. That's, after that, everyone's like, okay, it's on RAID, and then it's also spanned across 4 nodes with redundancy built throughout.
Geographic locations.
Yeah, the likelihood that that's going to happen where all of those systems go offline simultaneously is slim to none.
So in fact, I was going to ask you, I see, especially with SUSE, they use the word geoclustering. So that's another word for disaster recovery. And I understand that also is like a joint collaboration between LINBIT and SUSE.
Yeah, we actually developed about 60% of the components of that offering in-house here at LINBIT. So with that solution, you're able to mirror data between multiple data centers and then also do automatic failover. So if a data center falls off, you can transition the entire data center to another data center within minutes. And I say minutes because you need to make sure the other data center is really offline prior to bringing the new one online.
Yeah, you would not want that to be a split-second decision.
No, it's configurable to as much time as you want, but we generally set it to around 3 to 5 minutes.
Okay.
So
to prove it's really dead.
Yeah.
Not just half dead.
Yeah, it needs to be all the way dead.
Yeah.
But with that offering, we use a product called Booth, which is what we had developed, and that enables us to mirror the data and make intelligent decisions as to whether or not to promote a data center to primary.
All right, and then I saw a press release that had to do with Oracle Dyn. This is when DNS records are flipped, so that traffic is automatically redirected to a different data center, even though the address on the packets was doesn't have to change. Does that change the time frame of, flipping it to a different data center, or is that still kind of a few minutes? And in fact, what's going on between LINBIT and Oracle Dyn?
So we partnered with them to provide this dynamic DNS, hence the name Dyn DNS. And the reason for that being is we are able to fail over between data centers, but you still have this issue of customers trying to access the data. And if the IP address changes, which most likely it's going to if it's in a different part of the country, you need a means of accessing that, and that's generally through a DNS name or a URL. And with Dyn DNS, part of the failover process can be to initiate that DNS transfer from pointing to your old data center to your new data center. And that all happens, again, within that 3 to 5 minute time frame.
Okay.
I see. Got it. Now, you mentioned that DR has been around, the disaster recovery solution has been around since 2008.
Correct.
So that's already some years.
Almost 10 years.
Yeah, so one would say that the wrinkles are probably ironed out of that one.
I would think so.
Yeah, but that reminded me. How old is the company? How give us a little bit of a history of LINBIT.
So LINBIT itself was founded in 2001. DRBD development actually started in 1999
Okay.
as part of a college thesis from Philip Reisner. At his school, the mail server continually went down, and it was due to failing hardware. So to mitigate this, so he could actually get his email, he created this software called DRBD, and
Really?
that
That's a
enabled.
pretty cool story.
That is a pretty
Yeah.
cool story.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, he was solving a real world problem. He couldn't.
That's the thing, is that when you're solving your own real
Yeah.
world problem, that's great. That's a great foundation for any company.
Yeah, so he did that, and then around, I believe, 2000 or so, he met Lars Ellenberg, and then they started formulating what would soon become LINBIT, the company, in 2001. 2008 rolls around, and we had founded the U.S. office, and we've been here since,
And just growing like a weed.
consistently.
Very nice.
That's great. There you go.
Yeah.
Very good.
Very good. Well, this has been interesting.
I love the story. I saw your article in the Register with 1.6 million downloads, and it's such an unexpected piece of the data center software puzzle.
I mean, you'd expect millions of downloads for Angry Birds,
Yeah,
but not that kind of download for Enterprise
not
HA.
calm, resilient, highly available birds.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, thank you so much for the time, Brian. We really appreciate it.
And thank you for having me.
And we'll be back soon with another OrionX download.
Excellent.